Hey everybody, it's part 2 of the video here. It's been a while. Had some weather, some stuff pop up, but weather's improved significantly. Almost all the snow's gone. Weather's getting nicer, so figured it'd be a great time today to make another video, show you guys the rest of the engine. Mostly what I wanted to do today is show you basically 3 things that I did wrong in the past couple weeks here to save you guys some grief and some money and some time when you're doing this project. And we'll go over that though here in a second. But today what I want to do is basically finish getting the front of the engine off, do the cam swap, get the lifters back in it, get the new Camaro and Firebird oil pan on there, pick up all that fun stuff, and then get this thing, you know, getting it close to getting it buttoned back up together. So why don't I kind of show you guys where I am here, and we'll go from there. Alright, so just a couple things here that I wanted to show you guys. A couple things that you can definitely do to avoid some of the slowdowns that I ran into. One, if the engine is a DOD engine, you're going to have a 1-bolt cam. I didn't realize that. For whatever reason, I thought this thing was going to have a 3-bolt cam. It doesn't. So you're going to have to replace this at the same time that you're going to be replacing your cam, because most of the cam shafts are going to be 3-bolt. So I did need to purchase a new cam gear. They're not that expensive, but it ended up costing me an extra 20 bucks or so because the kit that I bought had some redundant parts in it. So honestly, just get yourself a kit that's got the timing chain and everything in it, and the dampener, and you save yourself some money there. Also, I was planning on reusing this oil pump. Once I got the cover off, I realized that this thing has probably got more miles on it than I thought. So I'm actually going to be putting a new Summit Racing pump on there, and I'll show you that here in a second too. But I was definitely very surprised in here. It took me a while to get into here because I couldn't get the dampener bolt off. The reason being, on these bolts, they put quite a bit of thread locker on there. So what you want to do is put a little heat on them. For sure, it took me over a week working on this part-time to get that bolt off. So throw a little heat on there, and that bolt will come right off with a torque wrench. So don't break your back trying to get that bolt off without heating it up. And also the other thing that can save you guys some time, make sure you get the correct puller. I bought one of these, and it's garbage. It doesn't work at all for the application for these LS engines. So this one is not the type that you're going to use with any success. Get yourself one of these. This is a OEM Tools brand, and this works really well to pull that dampener off. So again, save yourself some money, save yourself some time. Just get the right tool right off the bat. Alright, so I got all these bolts out of the oil pan now, and I'm not going to be reusing this oil pan. I'm putting that Firebird Camaro LS1 oil pan on there so it can fit in the Corvette. So I'm going to just pry it off. Alright, so it's kind of hung up on the pickup on this side. Okay. Alright, so next step is to get the oil pump off. There's actually a 10mm bolt and a looks like about a 12mm bolt that hold this pickup tube off. It's got to come out for the pump to come out all the way. So Now, some of you may have experienced the low oil pressure problem that can happen when this O-ring wears out. With a lot of miles, they split, and it can have a pretty bad effect on your oil pressure. So it is common for that to happen, so definitely check that out. And always, 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 when you got these apart, replace that O-ring. It's cheap insurance. And there's the old pump. She's pretty well wore. Got a lot of miles on her. Definitely very dirty. O-ring in this one. Looks like it's orange, possibly. Yeah, it's an orange one. It's really kind of, it's a lot harder than it should be. It's not tore or anything, but yeah, it's definitely probably on the verge, I would say. So you would definitely want to replace that. You know, if you were just throwing the truck pan back on there, or if you're replacing the oil pump, always replace these. All right, the next thing we want to do is make sure we get this engine at top dead center. It's going to make putting the new camshaft in there easier. And then we just have to put the new timing chain. It's an LS2 timing chain. I got the new 3-bolt cam sprocket and chain dampener. These trucks do have a little bit different design, but we're going to upgrade it to the LS style chain dampener, so it'll be a little bit better. Alright, so top dead center on these engines, obviously number 1 piston is going to be at the top, and then if you look, there's a dot on the crank, and then there's a little divot on the cam sprocket. As soon as you see that, you know you're at top dead center.
Before I play you the actual audio of it. That's right. I'm looking at this ticket text. Jeff, you have 2 types of shows. Ones where you wing it and BS too much. Rare shows on weekends, 8 or 9 out of 10. Weekday shows where you don't have a lot to say, 5.
Now that you got that bolt out of there, that cam sprocket comes right off, and we can get the rest of this off, pull that cam out. I'm kind of curious to see if we got any damaged lobes on that because of that low oil pressure situation, but we'll check it out. Not going to reuse any of that. That's all going to be going to the scrap heap. Next step, getting this cam retainer plate out of there. Let's get those T40s on there. I don't really like them that much, but we'll be gentle. We'll get them out without stripping them. Alright, that popped right off. These ones you really want to replace as well when you got them apart. This should be raised. You should be able to feel it. This is really important. Again, another spot where you can lose oil pressure. And I can barely feel this, so you always want to replace these. They're pretty inexpensive. And again, you don't want to be in a situation where you're losing oil pressure and have to take this whole engine apart. Alright, let's pull that camshaft out of there. Alright, so here's the camshaft, and I'm actually surprised. It's got a little bit of wear on it, but I don't see any major damage to any of the lobes or anything, which is good. Means we don't have a situation where there's a lot of metal shavings possibly in the engine. So I feel pretty good about that. But the cam popped right out, so that's always a good sign. Bearing-wise, definitely a little bit of wear there. Not that bad though. I'm gonna put lots of lube on there. We shouldn't have any issues with spinning a bearing or anything like that. But I've definitely seen worse. You guys think I can make a lamp out of this? Alright, well now it's time for everybody's favorite part, new parts. And we got some cool stuff today. Loctite, obviously, for all these internal bolts. We're just going to put a little bit of this on there. Actually, when I was taking this old cam retaining plate out, one of those bolts was loose. So definitely want to use this on all those. Just a little dab will do you. Next up is the cam retaining plate. This one you can feel the ridge on it, so this one's going to maintain oil pressure a lot better than that old one, which was completely wore out. And it comes with the new bolts, and it's already got Loctite on them, so you don't have to worry about that. So that's kind of cool. As I mentioned earlier, this is a 1-bolt cam engine, and you need 3-bolt. So got that also from Brian Tooley Racing, actually, for this one. And the chain dampener here, which is the upgrade. This is the LS style, so we're going to be putting that on there, getting rid of that truck dampener, and giving it a little bit of LS goodies. And last but not least, and actually probably about the most important piece we're putting in this engine, is the camshaft from Brian Tooley Racing. This one is relatively mild. It's a truck cam, and it's their Stage 3 version 2, I believe it's called. Yep. And so it's 218, 224 duration at 50. And valve lift is pretty mild on this one, but again, these heads that we're putting on here untouched, so 553 lift on there. So lobe separation angle 110. So this is going to be the heartbeat of the engine. It's going to sound very healthy, especially through a set of headers. And I'm not sure what mufflers we're going to put on that Corvette yet, but nothing too obnoxious. But you'll definitely know that it's got some camshaft in it. So first and foremost, the biggest thing that you want to do is put a lot of lube on all of this stuff. I bought a bottle of this Lucas assembly lube, and I plan on using my fair share of it in this engine. Last thing you want to do is have a dry start, and it's just a good way to wreck your day. So don't get cheap with this stuff. It's like $8 a bottle, maybe even less if you find it, locally, maybe an off-brand. But use a ton of this. I'm going to put it all over all these parts to make sure that we don't have a situation that's going to make for a lot of cuss words. Don't put the cam in backwards either. That's embarrassing. So Brian Tooley Racing, they put a little bit of assembly lube on here already, but I'm going to really put a lot more on there. It's probably just an anti-corrosion coating, so we're going to put a whole ton more on. And we're going to put it on maybe the first half here, and then we'll get that in, and then we'll put the assembly lube on the rest of it. Alright, there we go. Now we're just gonna feed it in. Right, as you can tell, it's a fairly simple process. You know, they do make cam installation tools and things like that. You can even put some long bolts in there, but honestly, these camshafts are hollow for a good portion. You can just stick a long screwdriver in there, not going to hurt it, and that works really well too. You only need it for the very end of it when you're just trying to get it in that last bearing, so it works good. It saves you a couple bucks too. Last thing you want to make sure is before you put the timing chain back on this is that your crank didn't move. Make sure that dot's still facing straight up. Retaining plate time. This one's pretty easy. Just get it on there, get it tight. I'm going to put the cam sprocket on next. Big thing with this is you want to make sure, again, your dots are lined up. I don't know how I did it. Maybe I'm just so good, but the camshaft was actually in the almost perfect spot. Crank's a little off though, so I'm going to move that around just a tad, just so we're lined up perfectly. Next thing we're going to do is put that chain dampener on there. Make sure you put a little Loctite on these bolts when you're putting them in there, and then put a little assembly lube on there too, just to give you a little less friction. Alright, last thing we're going to have to do to this before we button it up is put our upgraded timing chain on there. Went with the LS2. It's a single roller, obviously. I mean, it's not that exciting. It's a timing chain, but it's definitely an upgrade over the old truck one, and should give us some good service life. Well, guys, that's going to do it for now. I got to wait for my cam bolts to come in from ARP. Should be here in the next day or two. And then I'll do that. And then next episode, we're probably going to put that oil pump on. Head studs, probably, get the heads on. And start replacing some gaskets and things like that. And we're going to be getting pretty close to getting this thing finished up. But if you can, like, subscribe, leave me a comment as well. I'd love to hear what you guys are working on. And we'll see you next time.